Yes, this is one part of it. Let us see what happens is we as a customer, did we ever correlate this particular laundry detergent with the timber? Did we ever think that the surf which we are going to the market to buy is somehow linked with timber? But now you can very well see what is it in the market, how it moves from here to here, and finally it comes in. So you can see that there are so many entities, so many people, so many activities, so many institutions working all together in collaboration. And it is the result of these collaborative works that the material moves from one end to the other. This is called a supply chain flow. Let's now come into further details of the supply chain. We'll take an example of a manufacturing unit, and we'll be talking of a manufacturing unit throughout our supply chain and management or supply chain discussions. And we are calling it to be a facility. This facility is a manufacturing unit. It will be having some raw materials here. He has some particular machineries out here or the production unit. And he has this raw material, it takes in the raw material and result after some production activities, these materials are then certain new material are produced, which are called the finished product. But he is manufacturing out of certain products, he needs certain things. But from where will he source those things? And the source is the suppliers. These suppliers are a group or maybe a single or a group of people or maybe different industries who will be supplying the raw materials, the feedstock, the intermediates as required by this facility. Okay, this part I think is clear that supplier is supplying us the raw materials. And this facility in turn is manufacturing and making certain products. But why is he making that product? Those products are not to be kept with him. Those products are supposed to be somewhere, and he is producing the products for somebody, and that is called the customer. It is his need, his demand, his requirement that this facility is fulfilling. So this fellow supplier is giving the raw materials. This fellow facility in between is converting into certain finished products as per the requirement of the market. And this finished product is then being supplied or received by the customer. And this is how we get those material in any market whenever we require. But these suppliers, for supply of their materials, they need some system again. So what they do have, they have a system which is called the inbound logistics. It is through this logistics system that all the supply material, all the raw material moves from the supplier and is received with the facility or received with the production unit. The production unit stores it somewhere, gives it to the production unit, and production unit in turn manufactures, as I said, the products. And this product has now to move to the customer, and for that we have the outbound logistics. Then in the factory campus itself or the production unit, there would be certain movement of goods, there would be certain movement of articles. That is called the on-site movements or on-site logistic also. So simply, once this on-site logistic is known that there would be certain on-site logistic, what we do is to simplify or all those activities or all those entities, all those components, all those requirements, functions, which are towards the supplier, we call them upstream. And similarly, all these functions, activities, persons, machines, requirements, we call them downstream. And sorry. So basically, it is an overview. This is an overview of the supply chain. As you can see now, that we have a facility, we have a supplier. Supplier, by use of certain methodologies or inbound logistics, supplies the material here. It is stocked here. It is converted into finished products and again stocked here. That is called the on-site logistics. And then from here, it moves through an outbound logistic to the customer. So now let us see that why what are the parameters that would be required for movement of goods from here to here, here to here, and why this chain is required, or what is the fundamental requirements that are required for a supply chain to be active or to be beneficial for the company. There are certain metrics. One is called the cost. Yes, the supply chain, if worked into properly or in a very properly and orderly fashion, we will have low costs working for us. We'll have quality control. It may be very high quality as may be required, as in case of, may say, space items, or maybe a consistent quality as in a common man's requirement, say again the laundry detergents quality. Then time is a very essence of this supply chain. We need to have a very fast delivery as and when required, or there has to be an on-time delivery if there are certain contracts in which some periods have been given and when these materials are to be delivered. Then you are parallelly, when you are working and manufacturing, you are also into development of new products. You are also into R&D, but your speed of development has to be fast so that you become the market leader, or you are the innovator in the market, and you should not lag behind other competitors. Otherwise, your whole expenditure out here for development goes a waste. Your system should have flexibility. This flexibility, right from sourcing to manufacturing and from to dispatch and by the to the customer, we should have flexibilities there as may be demanded in the market. We may have to have a volume flexibility as far as our production capacity is concerned, or we may have to have some flexibility in our production line so that if required, we can immediately switch over to some other product which may come into sudden demand in the market. Or we may have also to look into the customization. Like there may be a student who lives in a hostel and he may need only a single pouch of shampoo. He doesn't need a bottle. So once or twice a week when he needs, he simply goes and buys a pouch of shampoo. Then there would be some who will need a 100 ml bottle of shampoo, or maybe a big family who may need a economy bottle of shampoo. So those customizations are also to be taken care. It's not that, yes, you all just simply go on producing 100 or 150 ml bottles of shampoo. You need to look into the market needs. You need to have those flexibilities of manufacturing and producing in different lots, different sizes. And above all these things, the biggest thing which comes in and which is very much important is the integration. Integration basically is linking all the activities which are happening, or linking all the players who are involved there in supply chain together, so that we have a better information sharing and we have a transparency in our activities. This information sharing, you will see, is the prime thing which is required in a supply chain. If this information flow is not there, your sourcing may get affected, your outbound supplies may get affected, or even as such, your own manufacturing unit may get affected. So these are the certain key metrics which are very important for a supply chain. In a supply chain, there are certain things which are to be taken. Now we will take each component separately. Like when we are at the supplier end, when we talk of a supplier, what are the main factors or what are the parameters that we need to look into? Supplier means who will give us the material, when he will give us the material, how he will give us the material, what price he will give us the material, how many suppliers are available in a particular market, and so forth. So many questions are there. And these questions need to be thought of, need to be discussed, and then need to be planned in a way so that the best in the market may be available to us. For this, we need to have a sourcing strategy in place. And once we have a strategy in place where we have shortlisted with the suppliers, we need to have a procurement system also in place. So let's see how the sourcing strategy and procurements work. Okay, then again we come in a lot of questions I have, what is sourcing? So right from starting, I'm just saying, what is this, what is that, what is that? But I think it being a very basic course or a basic lecture, I think these questions and their answers would be of very much interest to you. And I think it will be going deep into you so that tomorrow you'll always know what it is like. So this sourcing is basically an organized, a collaborative, and a structured process. See, there are three very big words in it. Organized. Organized means that there would be an ongoing enterprise process. That means there is a certain process in place which is going on, which looks into the various categories of spend. That is, it is looking into how the money is being spent on different activities in the organization for production of certain goods, which is the objective of our supply chain. So basically, this activity sourcing has to be from somewhere, which is an organized way. Then it is a collaborative. Collaborative means the managers, they need to talk amongst themselves inside the system and outside the system. Inside the system means inside the facility, that is the manufacturing people, different functions of manufacturing. And secondly, they need to have an interaction and talk or discussions with their suppliers and also their customers. Third, it should be very much structured process. Structures means there has to be certain laid down procedures, guidelines, governance system, or as you call it, S&OP, that is sales and operations planning must be there, or against which things are to move. So these three things, the organized, collaborative, and structured process has to be there for what? So that we can critically analyze the organization's spending. Because, supply chain means spending money, right from raw material procurement to the finished good dispatch, it's all money. So we need to critically analyze that the money is spent in the most suitable or the best possible way to make a good profit or maximize the profit for the company. And secondly, we need to use the available informations by way of collaborative discussions for decision making or planning our strategies. Right? This sourcing seems to be very easy, simple thing. Like, okay, there are some 5 suppliers there. We'll talk to them कि भैया हमको ये इतना रुपए किलो दे दो, ये इतना रुपए लीटर दे दो, and he'll supply it and we'll use it. Now you will see just now I give you a very good example and a very simple example. You go to a store and there you are buying say for example, you go to buy a winter jacket. See, a simple winter jacket is there. This jacket has some fur out here, which is the artificial fur, which is supplied from Thailand the world over. There is some cotton linings, which you can see inside the jacket. These are the specialty of China. because he is the world's largest producer of cotton. You have the simple zipper system, which uses steel, which comes from Japan. You have the snap fast fasteners here, the buttons, which we call them. These are from Germany. And above all, the outer waterproofing layer that comes from Taiwan. Now you can see that for a simple jacket, there are so many supplying countries, not supplier, this supplying countries. It's a global phenomenon. And in Thailand, if you want to purchase this, you need to select the suppliers there. You need to have a sourcing strategy and meet the suppliers and shortlist the suppliers. Similarly, if you need a very good quality of jacket outer layers, in Taiwan, you have to sit there and look into the market availability. So for this, what happens is that we cannot treat this Thailand supplier or a China supplier or a supplier in Germany in a similar fashion. All suppliers need a special treatment, a special way of functioning, and we need to have a particular set of terms and conditions which will be specific for that particular group of suppliers. And for that, we have a strategy in place. This sourcing strategy is nothing, but it is that depending on the suppliers, what are the different terms and conditions, our relations, our way of working, and our requirements from those particular suppliers. That is what we will be looking into as a strategy of sourcing. As I said, that is reads, but all suppliers are not made equal. And that is what I said, the supplier from China, from Japan, from Germany, from Taiwan would be different. Or say, for example, any other example as such, suppliers from Noida or a supplier from Bangalore or a supplier from Kozhikode, they will have different type of treatments. A supplier, suppose L&T is supplying you something, or a local fabricator is supplying you something, your strategy would be very much different for these two types of suppliers. So for this particular supplier strategy, we have two particular things in place. There are two things which work on it. First, it is how much we are spending with that supplier. That is, for that supplier who is supplying a certain material, what is the amount of money we are spending on it? And second, what is the supplier risk or dependency? Supplier risk or dependency is nothing but how dependent are we on a supplier in the market. Suppose a supplier A supplies you certain raw materials. Now the question is that if tomorrow supplier A stops supplying you, are there other opportunities available? Are there other suppliers available in and around your place? If yes, then you will have a different type of a treatment with A. And if no, then you will treat supplier A in a different fashion. So this is called supplier risk or dependency, low to high. And this is spend, as we call it, the monetary or financial impact from low to high. Based on this, a very good system of this 2x2 matrix has been developed. How does this function? This first quadrant, all the suppliers who fall into this category, the supplier risk is very high. As you can see, the risk is very high. And even the spend is very high. That means our financial implications are also high in this particular. Whereas in this quadrant, the supplier risk is high, whereas the spend is not high, spend is low. So fourth quadrant, the suppliers are plenty, but our stakes are very high. And in this third quadrant, as we call it, this is both low. The risk is also less. You can afford to lose suppliers. And here the financial implications are also less. So based on it, what has happened, these matrix or these different quadrants have been given a particular name. These are called the strategic partners. All those suppliers who will fall in this category are called strategic partners. Whereas those suppliers who will be in this category are strategic suppliers. And those who are in this quadrant will be core suppliers and non-core suppliers. So before proceeding further, let me just recap this portion again. I think it's a new concept you are having. One is the supplier risk or the supplier dependency. That is how much we are dependent on the supplier and how much we are spending on that supplier. Here, the dependency is very high and we are spending also high. Here, the dependency is high, but spending is not very high. Here, the dependency on the supplier is low, but we are spending high volumes of our money. And here, both the supplier dependency and the money we are spending is low. I think this portion is clear with you all. Can I get a chat, a thumbs up or something to the sign that this part is clear? Okay, I think this must be clear. So before proceeding further, we like to have a very small exercise here based on these 4 squares. Are you all ready? I think so. So since it's very simple, do one thing on the top of your screen. You have the annotation menu. Just go to the top of your screen. You will find annotate written out there. Click on the annotate and select from the annotate either a pencil or you can select a stamp, and then just simply stamp here, 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 whatever which you think is the most critical supplier in these 4 categories. Could you follow it? Could you follow the concept? What is to be done? Simply, you have to select the annotation, go to annotation, select the pencil, or you select the your stamp written out there, bring it down, and then click on the squares or rectangles or these quadrants which you think that they are critical as far as those suppliers are. So you can do it. I'll wait for some time. Let's see what you do. And I request our faculty also to participate in it, because there is nothing like wrong answers or right answers in this. Please participate, then only it will be interesting. Otherwise, you will sit here today and then you will forget the concepts. I can't see anybody clicking on the quadrants, please.
Students, I kindly request you all to please participate. And if you are not able to annotate, then please tell it here.
Because you see, unless and until you participate in these things and you do not take interest,
strategic partner will be the answer.
Yes, you just
actually, ma'am. Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
please.
actually, we are not able to annotate because there is no option.
Okay, you
Yeah,
don't have
only
that. Okay, you do not have that option coming in this particular year.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
sir,
sorry.
only you
I-
can do it, sir.
Okay, you can just
Sir,
come
I
up.
guess it's the meeting settings which do not allow the
Yeah,
students to
no,
annotate.
you
So we
can
can
Yes,
discuss
sir.
just a
orally.
minute. Okay, maybe this setting is not allowing you to do it here. Okay, never mind. I think, okay, some of you can just come up with some answers. Maybe you can unmute yourself and you can just speak out also.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Strategic partner.
Okay. Somebody else? Okay, I think we can continue further. I'll just again tell you the concept and then we'll proceed further. You're right, very right, that it's a strategic partner. But again, strategic supplier and core suppliers will not be far behind it. They will also be critical. But as it is the most critical, you're right, strategic partner would be the most critical here. Then why is strategic partner most critical? And you see very terminology which has been used in particular these quadrants. That gives you here we have used the term strategic partner. That means we have to be one with our supplier. That means we have to have some long-term relations with him. We need to give him an assurance of business for 2 to 3 or maybe more than that, maybe 5 years in a row, so that he is with you as and when required, and to be keep him intact. Because you see, basically, you see, here is the supplier risk is very high. That means there are very limited number of suppliers, and once you have a supplier, you cannot afford to lose him. Losing him means your whole supply chain gets disturbed. So what we can do is to keep him with us, we can go for a co-development programs. We can talk to the supplier, we can help him along and join his R&D programs, or maybe we may share his certain risk factors of he has in the market. We can share it with them, because these will give a sense of confidence to this particular subgroup of suppliers, so that they would be with you and they will not leave you. At any cost, you need to have these suppliers tied up with you so as to survive in your supply chain. Next, this strategic suppliers. Yes, again, as the name strategic says, yes, again, this needs to have long-term relations. The suppliers risk is very high. That means very limited number of suppliers again. Here, but because your financial implications are not very high, so what you can do is that you can again talk to these suppliers to help them maintain the quality and continuity of their supplies, maybe co-develop them. And parallelly, what you can do here is that because the spend is not high, what parallelly you can do here is that you can develop some new suppliers in this market or in this category. That is what is very important here. Then we come to the core suppliers. Core supplier means lots of suppliers available in the market. Plenty of them are available. If one goes off, there are two others ready to supply you material. So in this case, what you do is that for any procurement from the suppliers, you can have a strategy of competitive bidding. You can go and have a tender, float a tender amongst the suppliers, select some 5 or 6 of them, and then with your negotiation and buying skills, you can get the most competitive prices out of them. And once you get such good price from some of these 4 or 5 of these suppliers, you keep them in the loop. And this loop is called a broad network strategy. You need to form a network of some 4 or 5 suppliers always there. And as and when suppose 1 or 2 suppliers skip out, you can add more suppliers to that because more are available in the market. Then we come to the non-core suppliers. Here, with lots, many of them are available, no price criteria. Here simply it is best you go to the market and buy as and when required, or you go to some 3 or 4 particular suppliers, talk to them and guess the best price, and you can just buy it from them or get a supplies from them. So here it is basically minimize the cost of acquisition as far as possible, and best price evaluation and low supplier retention. These suppliers do not need your any attention or special treatment out here. So with this strategy in mind, what we do is that we survey the market. Say we have certain suppliers for a particular raw material. What we do is that we plot into those suppliers into these different quadrants. And once we plot them into these quadrants, and depending on to the quadrant they fall in, we have our terms and conditions of purchase with them. And that we'll deal now in the next, where we'll look into procurement. We have seen that we have already formulated a strategy where we have 4 categories of our suppliers. Certain market survey were done, and we have even selected some suppliers for each category. So now what we do is that we need to purchase or procure those materials from them. Yes, please. Shall I continue? Okay. So what we need to do is that once we have selected or formed a particular strategy of how we'll be selecting our sources, we come for the procurement. Procurement is a complete set of activities associated with buying goods or services. There are a lot of activities which are again bundled together in procurement, and these are the activities which we'll be looking into shortly, which are required for purchase of maybe material or maybe services. It is also called end-to-end process. That is, it starts from one end and ends at the other end. And it includes tasks which are happening before, during, and after the purchase of goods. Okay, this part I'll just come just a few minutes later, because what can be these activities? Okay, during purchase activities, everyone can understand, but what is this before purchase of goods? What is the activity? Or after the goods have been purchased, what is the activity would be there? Okay, we'll just discuss it in just a few minutes. So this procurement is an end-to-end process, and it is also called cradle to grave. That is, झूला से लेकर, पालना से लेकर उसकी कब्र तक जो जाती है, उसको हम जो है प्रोक्योरमेंट कहते हैं. कोई भी मटेरियल आया, उसका जो है जन्म हुआ, और उस जन्म से वो जब तक कस्टमर तक नहीं पहुंच गया, उसको जो है उस पूरे प्रोसेस को प्रोक्योरमेंट कहते हैं. So that is what is procurement. Let us see now and how it functions. And I am still to tell you about what are these activities which would be there before, during, and after procurement. Okay, so the procurement starts when you identify your internal needs. You are a manufacturer, you got certain customer demands, and based on that, you need certain raw material. Depending on his plan, his requirements, depending on the quality, the quantity of his requirements, you will work on the requirement of raw materials. This is called identification of the internal requirements. Once this requirement is worked out, that okay, you need item A, B, C, you need item X, you need item Z. So what we do is we go into the market and we find out who are the different suppliers available in the market for these particular type of items. How many suppliers are available in the market? Maybe local market, or maybe domestic market, or depending on need, it may be a global market. And the farther we go in, our supply chain becomes more and more complex. or our procurement process becomes more and more complex. So we shortlist the vendors, go to the market, look for the suppliers, shortlist or identify the potential suppliers, maybe 3, 5, 10 for each category of item. We send them request for quotation. This is a document which is sent to these suppliers, wherein we have our terms and conditions of supply, terms and conditions of payment, terms and conditions of transportation of the material, and so many other standard terms and conditions laid down by the government. Your plant may be a strategic plant where many safety items, safety has to be taken care of. Like suppose you go into a petrochemical industry, there you need to have a spark arrestor in your vehicles which move inside, or you have a particular type of vehicles which are only allowed inside, or there is a particular type of materials which are to be delivered at a particular point and other materials at a different location because of the safety requirements of the company. So based on those terms and conditions are all included in a request for quotation, and these are sent to the suppliers. What they do, they look through these conditions, they look through their supply chains, that how they will be in turn procuring material, how they will be supplying it to us, and what are the payment terms. Based on all those things, they then quote and submit their bids to. Once they have submitted their bids, then what we do is that we have a team of people who work together. There may be a person from the procurement purchase department, there would be a man from a finance department, there would be a person from the Indian technical department. So you may have 3 or 4 or 5 people, so that a collective evaluation and fair evaluation of these bids are done. Then you evaluate bid, shortlist them, and those who all qualify, then you call them for negotiation of the quoted rates. Here there would be a little diversion. What happens is this: as far as negotiation of those quoted rates is concerned, when you are working in a government organization or a government institution, this negotiation you can only do with the supplier who has quoted the least price. You cannot talk to other suppliers. But in the private or in the corporate world, what happens, to have a better control over the supply system, and because the flexibility is available, you can shortlist or select some 2, 3, 5 of such suppliers who can give you the best available prices. And that is called the select the vendors. Once that price is finalized and it is frozen, a purchase order is created and it is issued to them. What is this purchase order? Basically, it is a contract document which contains what material is to be supplied, what quantities are to be supplied, what lot intervals, whether they are to be supplied in single lot or at a particular interval of, say, every month or maybe every week. Then what is the price and what will be the payment terms, that when the material, after receiving the material, within how many days we'll release the payment, or what are the conditions to be fulfilled before the payment is released. And also there would be certain acceptance of the terms and conditions which has been already given as per the quotation request. Based on this, the supplier makes his material ready and then dispatches it to the receiving end. There the material is received, and after receiving, a quality inspection is carried out, and once it conforms to the quality requirements, then the invoice submitted is approved and then the payment is released. So this is the whole cycle. You see, this is just in 10 minutes that what is the whole procurement process like, right? So now we come to this thing. before, during, and after. So what is this during procurement? Once you have placed an order with somebody, आप दुकान पर गए, आपने कहा भाई भैया हमको वो दे दीजिए, और उसने आपको दे दिया और आपने उसको पेमेंट कर दिया, that is actually payment, procurement. So this is purchasing. The activities from create a purchase order to quality inspection control, where the material is as per your requirements, this is during the purchase activity. And all these activities are before the purchase, and this approval of invoice and EA is called the after activities. So this is the whole complex structure of the procurement. As this side, it deals mainly with the suppliers. You need to have a supplier relation management system in place, where we'll be discussed with, as I said, we have a strategy, we have an exchange of information, we have discussions with him, and we try to develop him as required, or we may have some relations, other relations. So we need to have a supplier relation management in place. And as purchase order is released, it is called the contract document. So we need to have a contract management which will take care of the goods after purchasing order is being placed, how this purchase is getting affected, and whether how it is in late or it is coming in time, whether the quality inspection it fails, how many times it has failed, deliveries have been in time or not, deliveries have been in full or not. These things are all taken care by the contract manager. So this was very brief about suppliers and supplier management. So this was all about what we had towards the suppliers. Next, we come to the facility. Here in the facility, we have three things to talk about. One is called the on-site logistic. Second is the inventory management. And third is the transportation. So what happens, whatever material has been ordered, it will be coming to our facility, right? This material which has come to the facility, it has to be received and stocked in our warehouse or a storage device. Now, if the material is solid, it will be kept in different racks or stacking systems. If it is a liquid, there would be certain tanks to store it. Or if it is a gas, there would be a pipe supply, maybe directly to the production facility or to a common point. From the warehouse, these materials would be moving to the production site. Production facility or the line may have different units. Like here we have 2 units. This from the material from here would move to facility 1 to 2. And once this 2 has given us the finished product, this finished product may need bagging or it may need packaging. Suppose there is a dry chemicals, they have to be bagged. Suppose you are manufacturing shirts, trousers, shoes, socks, ties, they are to be packaged individually into different packing systems. And once this packaging and bagging is done, they are then transported into the finished goods or storage system. So from here, they are then dispatched outside. So what you have seen that there would be raw material moving inside the facility also. And to facilitate this moving, there may be different vehicles in place. There may be different lift, train or forklift systems in place. There would be people working in different areas. And so these components, they are needed to be moving and to be managed in a proper function. And for that, we need to have again a proper planning. How much and how many times do we need this raw materials to come? How much and how many times do we need to dispatch the VA? And similarly, depending on the demand, how much to produce. Now, this material has, because as you saw in the last slide, you see here that material is coming and moving through the different systems. This material needs to be managed. And again, a question pops in, what is inventory? So it's again a new term for you. All this material, which is moving from one end to other, all goods that are housed in this facility, and are needed to be managed is called inventory. Like I just showed you, the raw materials moving to the foyer, moving here, and then the final product here, and it goes out. So again, let us, okay, now that your annotation is not working, I'm really sorry. We are not unable to have an interactive exercise. There is another exercise here where a small thing. Which of these items you can see here do you consider to be an inventory? Just some of you, maybe 3, 4, 5 of you just can just unmute and just give an answer. Yes, come on. What do you consider that which one of these items are an inventory?
Work in process good.
Okay, right. Anybody else? Yes, try. There's nothing, there is nothing wrong in it. There's no wrong or right answers. Because I assure you one thing, whatever you answer, it will be a right answer. Just a hint. Come on.
So maybe all of them raw material, work in progress, and semi-finished and finished products.
Very good. Very good. Yes, very first line itself, if you have read it very carefully, it says, so any material, inventory is all raw materials, all goods which are in process, all goods which are in semi-finished state or finished state are called inventory. Because these are the outshoot of what? The raw material only. So only the shape has changed, right? So anything which is inside the facility, any material or goods which are inside the facility is a inventory. And as you have seen that there are so many operations going on, so much of the materials are there, they again need a management system. That is inventory management. And basically, as you see this material, there are two objectives of inventory management. One is to maintain an optimum size of inventory for efficient and smooth production and sales. So raw material or semi-finished material or finished material, we need to have sufficient quantities so that the market demand is fulfilled. Your salespeople have said that they need 100 units per week. We should be able to produce 100 units per week for them, right? There should not be any shortage of raw material, or there should not be any blockages or outages in our production units. So we need to have an inventory at all the 4 or 5 levels, as I showed you last, to be very optimum. Then the question comes in, why optimum only? Why can't we have some extra buffer? We can have additional amounts also. So what happens is when the problem comes in, if you have too much inventory, whatever goods you are using, you are spending money on it. And in a particular chain, unless the money flows from, as long as these materials are flowing inside the your facility, that money is still your money which has been invested in it. You are not getting any return on it. So your capital, your working capital basically is getting blocked there. So you are losing on the opportunity cost of your funds. So if you have some excess inventory, lot of your working capital will get blocked there. You will not be able to use it for other useful or purposes as may be required. And not only that, you will be spending excessive carrying cost will come in. You will be spending on storing it. You will be spending on transporting it, additional quantities, which are not even required by you for a particular, say, a particular period or a particular time. And with high volumes of storage, there may be deterioration in your materials. There may be some chemicals which may have an expiry date. Your shelf life of certain rubber plants for parts, they may go off. So excess inventory will be very dear. And above all, there is a risk of liquidity. You cannot have this inventory to be which you cannot go to the market and sell off and recover some costs out of it. That's why another term has come in, that we need to maintain a minimum inventory to maximize profitability. What is profitability? Whatever you invest by your working capital. If your working capital is high, your profits will go down. If your working capital is low, you will be getting a better profit. So you need to maintain a minimum inventory level. And this is what basically is inventory management. But again, there is a risk there also. If it is too little, your production units will get pulled up and there will be delays in your production. You will not be able to meet the commitments you have made to your customer. And as a result, it will affect your goodwill and image of your firm in the market. And you may also lose your customers. So there is a very thin rope, thin line between optimum and minimum inventory. And you have to be very meticulous in your planning. And you have to have a very good integration of your systems, discussions and exchange of your knowledge, or you can say the exchange of information between different units so that they can work in cohesion. And as it is called, it is an optimization game. Okay. This is inventory management. And this is what we had in EA. Then comes in the transportation part. That is the inbound logistics and the outbound logistics. Inbound logistics is from supplier to A, and this is from facility to customer. Here the interface, outbound interface is the customer, and inbound the interface is supplier. So these both inbound and outbound needs to be dealt and need to be treated in a different fashion. This transportation of goods on either side, maybe by rail, maybe by road, maybe by sea, or maybe by air. Mode may be anything depending on the requirement. And this rail system, or maybe the road system, or basically the transport system as we call it, or the logistics system, it may be your own in-house. You may have your own fleet of transport, or you may outsource it. As may be the situation required, you can use these functions. Once these materials are being transported, a very important thing is, which comes in, it is called the transfer of title. Say, for example, you are taking a material from supplier or material A and it is being transported by truck to facility. Now, when is this material, it is being handed over to us in the facility. Now, you have to see that this material is, as long as it has not been handed over to the facility, the owner of the material is the supplier. And once he has reached the facility, he has handed over the material to you in the facility. This is called the transfer of title. This may be, he may supply it here, or there may be some suppliers where you may need to go to the supplier, collect it from the supplier, and bring it by your own means of transport. So what is happening here? The supplier is giving you the material at his premises. So the transfer of title is at his end itself. That is called collect function. You are collecting the material from here. And this takes care of the risk factor also, the insurance cover and etc. Then we come to the storage capacity. We have to plan our inbound logistics and our outbound logistics based on the facilities that we have in place, how much material we can store, maybe the raw material or maybe finished material. We need to meticulously plan this thing. And above all, it is the working capital which has to be taken care of. But when we come to the outbound logistic, there are certain other factors which need to be taken care of. Outbound logistic is very much dependent on the market demand. What is the requirement in the market? And depending on the market requirement, you will be dispatching your materials. Suppose there is a high demand in the market, then you will be a happy person because all your truckloads will be going full truckloads. But there is a low demand, then you may not be able to supply your customers with full truckloads. Then you have to give partial loads to the customer, and that will add to your price. And these are the things which are needed to be planned and which are to be discussed and taken care of. Further, this outbound logistics is also influenced by business strategy and approach of the men to manage costs. There may be some customers who are your fixed or the very reliable customers. You see, there is a customer A who is a long-term, say 15, 20 years, he's been your customers and he has been very prompt in your payments. And you, whenever you have requested him, even taken additional quantities from you. So your terms and conditions or your strategy, your business strategy with such a customer would be different. For him, even if you need to incur some additional cost and a demand comes in, you are ready to send him partial loads also. Similarly, if there are, there are certain number of customers who need some partial loads, what you can do is that you can club these demands together and then transport it in one go so that you get a full truckload. But because this truck would be distributing it at different points, the cost of transportation would be high, and you have to manage those costs, maybe built in somewhere in the cost of the goods. And above all, customer is prime. So customer satisfaction is prime. That is what is to be always taken care of in this outbound logistics. And similarly, your supplier would be also taking care of these factors when you are a customer for him. So this was in brief about the transportation systems. There cannot be a single solution for all. For each particular source, you have a particular set of conditions. For each particular customer, you have particular conditions and terms and conditions. Then we come to the customer. On the customer end, you have a S&OP in place, that is the sales and production. Means aap kitna bechenge, how much you will be selling and how much you will be producing. So you have a planning for it. And for that planning to succeed, you have to look into the demand forecasting, or you have to forecast what will be your market demand in the days to come. Because based on them only, you will be able to sell, you will be able to produce. So let's see, what is this demand forecasting? Yes, there are two terms, demand and supply, right? Both, it is our function to balance them. But you see, in a real-time situation, it is very difficult to balance between the two. And it is the supply chain's function to come to the very near to the balancing factor. If demand is high and supply is low, you lose on the market. If supply is high and demand is low, you lose on the money. So what happens is the demand planning is very much critical to match this supply and demand, right? And for this demand planning, what we need the future demand estimations. How are the future demand estimations done? We will go to the customers, we'll talk to them, we'll discuss with them. You must have seen, okay, there's a very small example I just gave you. There, if you go to any of those small restaurants, you must be seeing that somebody coming in with a small scooter type truck, delivery truck, and he'll just deliver certain things to the shopkeeper there. And then he'll write down कि भाई कल इस बिस्किट का कितना पैकेट दे दें, ब्रेड कितना दे दें, अच्छा ये चिप्स कितना दे दें. और अच्छा नहीं भैया ये नया प्रोडक्ट आया है, ये हम और आपको देना चाहते हैं, इसमें ये स्कीम है. Or he'll say, okay, this time I give you some more bread, you have some extra bread. Or he'll say that, okay, you try to push this item. So based on these discussions, you need to talk to your customer, you need to sit with him, you need to see his future projections or the long-term projections that he has for growing of his company, or what will be his market in the days to come, that you will be discussing on him. And based on this, you will be working out or estimating your future demands. Once you are working on these demands, you need to align and optimize your supply chain activities based on demands which you have worked from the field. This optimization and aligning is also very important. This all, okay, I'll come to that later. Okay, so this aligning and optimization has to be done in the supply chain so that those demands are fulfilled. There would be certain factors which would be affecting demand, like the size of the market. Now, are you working on a pan-India basis or a particular state, or maybe on a small district here? Your planning and your forecastings will accordingly vary. There may be some complementary products or services available in the market. Like very good examples are buy one, get one, or buy this product, you get another small, some other free something with it. Or you buy a big shampoo, you get some laundry cake with it. So you have to look into those factors, that what complementary products are moving in the, and how they are moving in the market. Then there would be some substitute products. Maybe there are some other products which are competing with your product. What is their market capture? What is their market niche? What is their market requirement? You have to work on those. And then accordingly, you have to make your own strategy. You have to look into the customer's preferences. Just I gave you the example of a shampoo pouch. You may need a small pouch, and if you are forced to buy a big bottle, you will never be buying. You will go to other people who can supply you with a small pouch. Or if you need a 100 ml bottle and somebody forces on you a economy size 300 ml, 350 ml bottle, you will not be going for it. So you need to have your customer preferences. Your customers' future expectations also you have to work into. Like your customer may be expecting that you will be developing some new products, and those products would be coming into the market, and you will be putting it and bringing it as an innovator, as a leader in the market. And second, last but not least, you have to look into the income groups of your market also. What are your customers? What are their income groups? A market in the village will have a total different forecasting as compared to a market in a mega city. So these things will be affecting your customer, and these in turn affect your whole supply chain. And as you can see, there are two things which are very prominent in a supply chain. One is planning at all the stages in different activities. And number two, each unit or each component is dependent on other. That is, flow of information should also be there. So we just saw that this was how the supply chain was working, how the things work in a normal supply chain. And basically, this is the base of all supply chains. Now, whatever happens, whatever changes would be there as trends in supply chain, as it is called, this will be something like you are the same person, but it is now whether you put on a jeans, or you put on a formal dress, or you put on a t-shirt, or you put on a Bata shoe, or you put on any other make of a shoe, or you put on a cap, or you put on a hat. That is all sorts of additional impacts which you put into you that improves your outlook or your functioning or your looks. So similarly, in the trends, you will be seeing that what new things have come into this. Because you see, we started way back in 1913 with Henry Ford. Then we came to the 80s, 90s, where we had the JIT, that is just in time, the total quality management. Then we came over to the supply chain concepts. And today we have this concepts are very mature, but now newer things have to be moved into this chain so that we can have better way and better functioning. So we come to this trends in the supply chain. And in this supply chain, you see, it will be the newer developments of electronics or as we call it, e-business, which will be taking a lead in everything. Especially, you must have noticed one thing in the last 2 years, over the last 2 years, you must have seen that most of the businesses, or most of the activities in the business are getting e-business. Your payments have become e, your deliveries have become e, your contacts have become e. So one thing that this pandemic has taught us, there is something, very, you will laugh at it, that pandemic has taught us one thing, that there is only one thing which is certain in this world. You know what it is certain thing? Yes, it is the uncertainty which is very certain in this world. Nobody ever expected that out of nowhere, this pandemic will come up, this COVID will come up. Sorry. And this pandemic, especially the COVID, has been a big learner and learning base for all the supply chain managers, all the business houses, all the corporates, the world. And as a result, because of this, our supply chain has become very global. It is now not very limited to a domestic year. As you can see, it has become very global with things from different being supplied or arranged from different parts of the world and being even given or sent also or dispatched to different worlds. And when this world, when these items would be moving around the globe, you need to integrate these movements. And hence there is an increased need of integration. And for that, we need some advanced systems in place wherein we can have a real-time monitoring of these products, how they are moving and where they are moving. For example, you are importing some medicines from some, say, Europe. They are coming by sea in some containers. These medicines or chemicals or products as such, they need particular temperature, pressure, or maybe humidity to be maintained while they are being transported. Now there are systems available in place which are available, which would be placed inside the containers while the ship is moving. And in the real time, you will be able to monitor, sitting out here, you will be able to monitor your goods moving through this track from different portions, and you will be able to know if there is any anomaly in your maintenance or in the flow of the transport of your material. That is, whether all through the section of your movement, whether those temperature, pressure, humidity, etc., has been maintained as per requirement or not. This was not available 5 years back, but now it is the need of the day. And as there is a company, a startup in US by name of Triconomy, they have come out with such devices where you sitting today in Noida, you can monitor your shipment coming all the way from Houston, maybe by ship, by air, by road, or by rail. You can monitor it sitting in Noida. Similarly, one more thing has been seen now, it is the greening of the supply chain process. This greening, this environment has become very prominent. What will we do? We have to see that we are not adversely affecting the environment. We have to take care of the environment. And for that, there are different companies have taken up different strategies. Like you must have heard of, and rather you must have also used also as a matter of fact today, that Amazon returns or the Flipkart returns. Therein you can return your products back to these companies. So these returns are a way of defining what we define as reverse supply chain. Or there may be, as it is called, a recycling of your waste, that you have been supplied with certain materials and whatever waste that has been generated at your end, the company would be taking it back. This is called the closed loop supply chain. And one of the best examples is that HP has taken a very good initiatives. They are recycling their, what we call is this empty cartridges. They have given an offer to their customers that, okay, you can send us back the empty cartridges. And forget all these things. The Olympics has given us, the Tokyo Olympics has given us one of the best examples of greening. All the medals, as you know, this time, the gold, silver, or have been extracted, rather, you can say, from the old PCs, your laptops, your mobiles, etc., which was a hazardous waste and a big concern for people. There are certain other companies, one more very good example has come in, that what they are doing is they are recycling or upcycling your clothes. Like there is a company called the ThreadUp. It's a startup again in US. What they do is that you are requested to give back your old clothes, and in return you can get a new clothes. This is again available. You can see if you go to Raymond's or you go to Big Bazaar at particular seasonal times, they have such schemes coming in where you take your old clothes back and in return they give certain valuation for it. Then we have seen that there is a rise in the e-business. It is the only e-business which has made maximum profits during this pandemic. Mostly industries have suffered, but e-businesses have profited like anything. And in turn, the most who have benefited, it is the small time shop people. There are small shops who cannot afford to have a shop of their own, or they cannot afford to have their retail chains. So what they do, and they have very specialized different niche products available. They come to us, as you must have seen in your Amazon and Facebook platforms. There are some small time shopkeepers who are coming up with their products. They get a supply chain backup from Amazon and Facebook. Similarly, there are others, like there is a Hive in Germany, which has come up with giving you warehouse facilities. They extend the warehouse facilities to you. So in this way, there are certain things which are coming up in the supply chain. Then comes in again another thing that we were talking of, the flexibility. This flexibility or resilience, as we call it, or agility in the supply chain is very much required. And the higher we have it, the more the flexibility is there to any changes to the macroeconomic, environmental, socio-political situation, the more adapt we are and more successful our supply chain will be. So like some chemical factories, during the pandemic, very soon they started manufacturing these hand sanitizers. Some fabric manufacturers, they started manufacturing face masks. And it is not only the small time players who are doing it. In France, during the first pandemic, when there was a huge demand of this hand wash, hand sanitizers, then this PPE kits, etc., French government took the help of that up and high-end perfume manufacturers. They immediately, with very quick response, they shifted to manufacturing of hand wash and different hand sanitizers. Your clothing merchandise people, like Hermes, like Gucci, like Armani, overnight they shifted their production line from these clothes to PPE kits. So this is the agility or flexibility, which is the need of the day. Tomorrow, suddenly some disruption comes up. How fast and how quick we can adapt to this change and the requirement of that change, that is very much important. As on date, for all these things to be in a good fashion or good way, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain technology, 3D printing are some of the examples which are taking a lead and which the companies or different supply chains are trying to imbibe it into their systems, right? So let us recap or recollect what all we did today. Like supply chain, what is it? There is a facility which manufactures everything. There are suppliers who, with the help of an inbound logistics system, supply raw materials. The facility has raw materials, production unit, finished goods, which is the inventory, which they manage very well out here. After finished goods, this may transport it to the customers and deliver it to the customers, and the market demand is fulfilled. Everything on the left, we call it upstream, and all towards the customer is downstream. Suppliers, we have to take care of, have a very good sourcing strategy in place and a very strong procurement system. At facilities, we need to have a good on-site logistics, a good inventory management, and a transportation system of inbound and outbounds. And at the customer end, most important of everything comes in the demand. I think this has been quite a long topic and quite a long you have been hearing me. I think here I'll like to end up my talk and open up this house for any question answers that you may be having in your mind, or maybe we can have an interactive session as we call it. Thank you, please. Yes, come with your question answers. Because before I say final thank you to you or a bye to you all, let us have some question answers. There must be surely certain things which must be cropping up in your minds. We'll try to see what best we can help you out with it. And maybe in future also, if you have certain any query, any clarification, if it is required, my email ID is here, my LinkedIn contact is there. You are most welcome to contact me. I'll be available to you for any of your helps, any queries you have. Yes, let's have some question and answers, please. Or it was all very, very easy for you, very simple for you all, and you imbibed everything well. Then I will be a very happy person.
Yes, sir, all clear.
Oh, so nice, Sambal. It's very nice.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
You're sure, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. I was a little late in speaking because there was some network problem.
No problem.
So since I'm taking this subject with the... Yeah. Okay, sir, first of all, sir, thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful session, sir. For a BBA student and for me, like a new learner in the field, sir, the concepts that have been explained are so wonderfully done. And I think, sir, it was a lot of ease. So the question is something related to mass production. So
Yeah.
I've been teaching to my students as a part of the BBS syllabus that in mass production, we don't have a scope of customization because things enter at one end and come out at the other end.
Very right.
So, sir, just wanted to make... Yes, sir. So just wanted to understand how supply chain management can be made flexible for such a system where only mass production is happening.
Right, sir. Sir, basically, what is the objective of our supply chain? We have to look into the customer demand. We have to see that our customers are satisfied with us. We are into mass production. That means we have purely a repetitive process in place, right? Now that a repetitive process, but there is suddenly there is a demand for something where with a slight modification in your supply line or your manufacturing line or your production line, you can come up with a new product. So you can always add a small facility to your existing production line and you can take care of the requirement which has cropped up as a result of the demand. Yes, your mass production will remain as such as it is because that would be something where you have specialized into and you have been dealing. But think one thing, say tomorrow, we are in one of the coastal areas and one of the, say this tsunami, we are get affected by a tsunami. The mass production which we were
Right.
into, that will not be in need at all at that particular moment. At that particular moment, we'll need some other products. And by just simply making some modifications to your existing plant, maybe you may be able to produce something maybe within a say a week, or maybe in 15 days, or maybe in a month. You can start producing which is required by the common people or the people in and around you. So that is the concept, boss.
Okay. So I got to understand now. So
Yeah.
a parallel production facility can be run and can be operated. It can be implemented with the
Yeah.
existing mass production system, right, sir?
Sure. You see, I tell you this during last year, the first pandemic, these people like say this Chanel and some other brands of these perfume makers, they were making
Yes,
very
sir.
specialized perfumes, and they
Right.
had their own mass productions. Perfumes, the base chemicals were different. Some you see, they had some perfumes that is the base chemical, but the base of the perfumes were say maybe alcohol based or maybe a particular other solvent base, right? And at that time, suddenly the demand for hand sanitizers came up. What they did, they stopped production of the perfume section. Instead, they diverted this solvents which they were using, maybe the glycols, maybe the alcohols. They diverted it and they started producing with some more additives to it. They started producing these hand sanitizers. I think this takes care of your question, sir.
Right, sir. Absolutely got it, sir. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, a mass can also exhibit addition or deletion of the product lines.
Sure,
They
sir.
can run parallel. I very clearly got it, sir.
Sure, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for
It
clarifying the doubt,
is a
sir.
pleasure. It was a pleasure for me to be amongst you all. The elite faculty there in the institute and the good students. And some students had been very well responding also. It was a pleasure for me. Okay, there's a small feedback call out in here, which is a 2-question, just rating 1:10. It will take you just 5 seconds. Either you go to the link shown in your computer, or you can just scan the QR code and you will be into that link feedback poll. It is a 2-question, 1:10 rating. I'll really love to have that feedback from you all. It will help me improve on my working and such speakings, So with this,
can you please share the link in the chat box?
In the chat box. Okay. I'll take a little time for that, maybe. Just give me a little time. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in that case, if you want, I can circulate it later with the students also.
Yeah, that would be a better option, I think.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And otherwise, the QR code is there. You can just simply with your mobile, you just scan the QR and you directly go into this link. It's just a matter of some 5 or 10 seconds maximum. So with this, I thank the elite faculty of the institute for giving me this opportunity to be amongst with you all and talk to your students. And my students, I love to be with you all, and I really enjoyed talking to you all. I would have enjoyed it much more if we have had a physical class where we could have had eye-to-eye contact with everybody, which we failed to have in this virtual class. That is something I also missed here. But okay, we have to, again, depending on the scenario, we have to have our supply chain. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So please, we'll take another 2 minutes of yours. Mahima, can you please continue?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful session. Now I request Dr. Ankur Bhttacharya, sir, Assistant Professor of BBA Department, to extend a vote of thanks.
I surely be the first person to take this wonderful opportunity to propose the vote of thanks to Dr. Tapas Bhttacharya. who has not only spared his valuable time to be with us and address our students and faculty fraternity on the topic of supply chain management, but has also unleashed really, really important concepts in such a lucid way. Frankly, sir, we are so thankful to you, sir, because frankly, this topic of supply chain management is apparently very dry looking,
Sure.
and not everybody is into it, and not everybody is able to understand the concept of supply chain with so much ease. But
Thank you.
the way you have explained, sir, in such a lucid way, I think dry concept will be forgotten as a concept and will be understood as an interesting concept, sir. So we all learned a lot and understood the concepts of SCM and related phenomenon so clearly. And also, sir, today's invigorating session will help us throughout our lives. And these inputs are a treasure to cherish, sir. So on the behalf of my faculty fraternity and my faculty colleagues, my HOD ma'am and the whole department and students, I express my heartfelt thanks, sir. Thank you so much for being with us. We're looking forward to have a long-term relationship with you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
It would be a pleasure. Thanks and okay, bye to everybody.
Sir, just a sec, sir. I request everyone to join in for a group picture. Can we all put on our cameras? I request putting on the cameras for a group picture.
Sir, I request you to please stop sharing the screen so that everybody can
Sure,
see
I'll
the
just,
camera.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And thanks, everyone. Thank you to the students being such and responding to the questions that have been asked. Thank you, Hema, for coordinating and comparing in such a wonderful manner. And thanks to Dr. Shikha for arranging for such a wonderful session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir. My pleasure.
Bye.